Hello, and welcome to Saga the Clone Saga, the Students of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast where we cover everything Clone Saga related. And guess what? We're almost near the end.
We're almost
I'm
done.
Mike.
That's insane. I'm Matt. I'm sorry. I was talking over you and didn't hear what you said.
I'm Vincent, and our sponsor this week is the Holland Files, the Swamp Thing fanzine, and printed on some green paper. What?
Are you binding that?
No, I just bought them. These are new. These aren't like I didn't like dig through some like 80s thing. The staples are not at the same like height on each issue. Just a, just a little slightly OCD, but also shows that it's very homegrown.
That's how you know it's a fanzine.
There's like some creases on one or two of the pages, just printers being weird. There's some cool fan art in here and interviews with some major creators as well, like Nancy Collins, who is getting a Swamp Thing omnibus soon. Yeah, interview with Nancy Collins. I think they interview Nancy Collins for every fucking issue so far. There are 3 of them. Interview with Josh Dysart. He had a run in the 2000s, and another Nancy Collins. They also, as part of the package, you get this postcard, which is just like it has some like deal on the back or something. You get a Swamp Thing fan club membership card, which is very exciting. I'm gonna put my name on that, carry it in my wallet everywhere I go.
I'm sure you will.
And you get a pin, which is way too small. I'm not gonna put my shirt all up in the camera, but it's a little swampy headshot, and it says that he's 7'3" and 547 pounds. So check out the Holland Files if you're a Swamp Thing fan, as the TV show comes ever closer.
Well, these DC Universe shows are what, 1 for 2 right now? Because Doom Patrol's good and Titans is trash.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some people like both. Some people hate both.
If you like Titans, you have mental problems.
If you are one with mental problems, please direct your hate mail towards Mike. Though I'm sure
I should say that. No, I'm sorry. I just want to say, basically, whatever was Zack Snyder's quote, that's what I use for Titans.
Wake the fuck up.
Wake the fuck up. Once you lose your virginity to this show, I mean.
Did you see? This is probably really old news, and now we're going on a tangent about Zack Snyder. But someone like screenshotted some like interview or profile piece where at one point in development, Snyder or his writers had considered making. You know how there's the whole Martha joke? They had considered making Martha Wayne and Martha Kent the same person.
Yeah, I posted that in our group chat today, and I said, someone please get him away from a mic. Like, his PR team needs to get him away. Like, stat.
That is so great.
The idea was that, like, I guess Martha Wayne survived the mugging, but then just abandoned Bruce and became
she went into witness protection
in Kansas.
That is so brilliant and stupid. I love it.
I'm gonna say about Titans, I don't need Jason Todd breaking a woman's cop's back and saying bitch on television. I don't need that.
On the other hand, live action Hawk and Dove.
On the other hand, live action Hawk and Dove.
On the other hand, live action Jason Todd.
You know who's getting royalties from live action Dove specifically?
Rob Liefeld.
Yeah, buddy. So today, to get into what we actually do on this show, we're talking about the Ben Reilly Scarlet Spider series.
Catch us in our next podcast, Hawk and Dove.
I'm down. I have the whole series.
Do you have all? Wait, do you have the new 52 book?
Yeah, I actually do. I don't know what that. There's no reason for me to have that, but the old is really good. So this first episode is called Back in the Hood. That's the name of the arc. And first, at the end of last episode, we read part of Spider-Man and Clone Conspiracy Omega or whatever the hell it was called.
Yep.
And we're reading another part of that, another 8 pages. And this story is called Give Us a Wink. And Ben Reilly, he's all scarred up like Kane, which has to do with his degeneration crap.
He's also wearing a Deadpool shirt, which is going to come into play here because I think Peter David is secretly a genius. And this is all going to make sense. Yes.
Mike can explain that.
It's just a giant meta commentary.
No, I think it becomes one. So he's wearing.
I think it really starts here because he's writing a Deadpool Spider-Man.
He stole a Deadpool shirt from this guy, and then he meets up with the lead doctor of New U. Her name is Rita, and what he did was he tips off some guys to jump her so that he can save her and extort her. But the thing is, it's like, I guess, it's a high stress situation, so she's not necessarily have 100% attention, but it's totally clear within these interactions eventually that he paid off these guys to jump her. And then like later on, a few issues later, she like forgets that. I don't know if she's supposed to be stupid.
I think like the way I read this is I think she is way too blindly infatuated with Ben and New You to believe that Ben would do that, even though Ben just comes out right and tells her to her face, and then she just shrugs it off.
Yeah.
I literally think it's just comedy.
So his plan here is to empty her savings account and fork it over to him, and he's going to go to Broadway in Las Vegas.
Well, we don't find out it's Broadway until we get to his series, but
yeah.
Yeah.
And he grabs a hoodie along the way, but it's like not the hoodie that he uses.
Which is just funny. Like, hey, he must put the Deadpool T-shirt over that hoodie because he's still wearing it at the end.
He's also wearing these terrible glasses that he wears throughout the series, and I cannot stand them. They look really bad.
Yeah, they're these weird, like, very flush to the face, like a visor.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like sometimes when they fuck with Cyclops's visor, and it looks really, really fucking dumb, but they're clear like regular glass.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
And I guess I mean his purple Nike jumpsuit that he gets in his regular series is even worse, but
Yep. Yeah. So now we have Ben Reilly, Scarlet Spider #1. Years later, and we have a Ben Reilly starring in a Scarlet Spider series.
But I guess we should talk about the cover, because the cover on the front of our issue is the one that was redid with the original costume, because he had a different costume for the first like 3 issues of this book that everyone ranted and hated about, and they quickly gave him the new one.
And like, I'm gonna be honest, I kind of like this cover.
Which cover? The one with the original costume or the one with the new one?
The new cover with the original costume.
Okay. It's not a terrible cover.
I've spent a lot of time on this podcast complaining about the hoodie costume, but when it's put next to the terrible thing he's wearing in this issue, I much prefer it.
Yeah, and all right, we'll get to some of the like potentially meta stuff in a minute, but
yeah,
inside the book, he's in this new costume, which he ripped off of a cosplayer.
The new costume literally looks to me. So, well, both of you guys didn't watch television, so this is gonna be hard. But have you seen any bits of the Spider-Man Unlimited cartoon?
I mean, I'm familiar with just the very basics of how he has a
Right.
shitty.
So you know, he has a different suit, but in that cost show, he has like a cape.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, this suit looks almost like that, except with a little bit more spider side thrown in and a hood.
Yeah, and then they make the spider side comparison later as well.
Yeah.
But like, what's the backstory of this cosplayer? Were they trying to be creative and make a new Spider Sona essentially?
Well, I thought this was going to tie into when he meets the friendly neighborhood watch party or whatever they're called later, because they said they implied it. I was thinking that there was a fourth one and he stole their suit.
I think so. Yeah.
They don't come out and say that. So
this issue opens with him standing on the Statue of Liberty, but it's the replica one in Las Vegas, which honestly, it's not actually impressive at all. But for like a 2-panel gag, I think this actually works really well.
And then he starts talking to himself.
Yes, and then
is the Deadpool nods.
Things immediately go off the rails in the 4th panel, where we get an imaginary monologue wearing the correct Scarlet Spider suit. And later there's a second one wearing the Jackal suit. So it's this lazy, like, schizophrenic angel and devil dynamic.
But then they just disappear.
Yeah, they just are not there anymore.
They just go, all right, we're done here. They walk away, and they never come back.
Yeah, it's really, I don't understand this series at all. And yeah, it's a lot of comparisons were made to Deadpool, mostly in his personality because he's just cocky and stuff. Deadpool doesn't really have imaginary things except for literally just one run, the Daniel Way Deadpool run.
Yeah, the yellow and black boxes.
Which was literally
yellow and white. Yeah, yellow and white.
Yeah, within the Daniel Way run, literally never explained how that started happening, never acknowledged whatsoever. And then eventually, during the Jerry Duggan run, but not by Jerry Duggan, it was explained that the extra internal monologue was the villain Madcap somehow like psychically like attached to Wade Wilson's soul or something.
Well, I think that Way only added the white boxes. The yellow boxes were always there.
Well, Way adds the second voice essentially. Whichever color the boxes are, it doesn't matter. But.
Yeah.
And the Madcap thing, I think, is kind of a genius retcon. I kind of love that, but
yeah, it's a genius necessary retcon to get rid of a stupid retcon, which was never properly retconned. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But getting back to this issue, we see Ben find trouble, and it's a mugger. And then he takes the guy, and guy calls him Spider-Man. And he's like, "I'm not Spider-Man." And then he says Spider-Man to him again, and he takes his gun and shoots him in the kneecap.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you guys think of the scene? Because I personally, I'm not a fan of it.
I think it's hilarious.
Or do you?
Yes, because it's so off the rails crazy.
It's only like it's only funny. The thing is, once they fix it, which we will get to, then these like first chunk of issues retroactively become like this weird, like fucked up, like alternate twist thing. It's almost like reminiscent of like all the Axis bullshit.
Knowing how Peter David hates 90s comics, and like I literally feel like he was just doing meta commentary on how bad can I make a comic book to show that this is not what we should be doing.
We'll have a further debate when we get there.
Like a Nightfall type of thing?
No, I think Peter David went. No one is going to like. No, I don't. I think he was like, how much crazy shit can I get away with?
Was that not also the idea behind Nightfall?
No.
Well, Matt's trying to talk specifically about Azrael.
Yeah, that's one small thing.
My theory is that Peter David at this point in his career or this year, whatever, is a total yes man.
Well, he's post
Yeah.
stroke Peter David too, by the way.
Yeah, he's just written 25 issues or however many, the same amount that this series eventually lasts. 25 something issues of Spider-Man 2099, just churning them out, sometimes coming out more than once a month somehow. And you know, obviously he had a connection with Spider-Man 2099, and some people like that book, some people like this book, but he's just churning it out.
Not to say that he didn't have a connection with Spider-Man before him. I mean, he did write Death of Gene DeWolf.
Yeah, well, no, connection with 2099, you know, creating.
Yeah. I'm just saying with Spider-Man in general, though.
Yeah. But I think he's just a super dependable guy. You know, at this point, right before 2099, relatively before that, technically his humongous second X Factor run had finally ended after like over 100 issues because it bleeds over into all new X Factor and everything like that. So you're basically looking at a guy who has putting out a monthly book, just very dependable for Marvel, and helping them flood the market, but keep a somewhat respectable fan base on his books for like 200 issues in a row. And so Marvel's just like, hey, we want to put another Spider-Man book on the racks. There's this new status quo for Ben Reilly. So Peter David, it's yours now because 2099 is over. And I think there's an editorial, I think the Ben Reilly stuff is an editorial direction based on what Slott set up. And maybe Peter David hates it, but he's a yes man and is going along with it. And it's only when the fans are like, this is awful, we hate this costume, we hate this characterization, where Peter David makes a super pivot and then transitions into sort of smart Peter David, at least for 2 issues. That's what I think happened.
Okay.
But yeah, so after he stops his mugging, he demands from the victim $100 for his services. And she only has 50, so he's going to come back to her later. And then other plots going around. Kane.
Well, how can you leave out the part where he saved her, and because Ben's so desperate for money, he asks her for $100?
That's what I just said.
Yeah, he just said that.
Yeah. I didn't hear you.
So Kane impersonates the Jackal to track Ben, and and Ben walks in this casino in Vegas, and here's one of the other just ridiculous parts is he adopts a cranky old woman with the name June, which is right next to May.
And I love hate this because I think it's so stupid.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, but great.
She just wants to play slots, and her husband just abandons her permanently.
I will say I like all the Kane stuff in this book.
Yeah.
Yes, the Kane stuff is interesting. But everything with Ben, I really hated it.
Everything with Ben is so off the walls that I kind of love it. It's so stupid.
Insane.
It's stupid.
And
it's not Ben Reilly.
No, it's not. And if you don't, and if you read it and just embrace it that way, that's why it's just this off the walls weird thing.
Right. Like if I look at this and I separate it from the Ben Reilly that I've come to know over the past 50 years or whatever.
How many episodes of this show?
If I separate it, then I can kind of enjoy it as a weird sort of, like you said, sort of like a parody. But it's not. It's intrinsically tied to Ben Reilly, and I hate that.
So a heist goes down in the casino, but Ben can't reveal his powers because somehow that would get out to Peter, and he'd track him down.
He says his name is Peter later. I don't. God damn it.
And then the bulletproof guard Slate comes out and stops the heist. And yeah, and then Ben Reilly introduces himself with the alias Peter, which is real smart.
Is Slate albino?
Maybe. I think they just are doing some kind of nondescript coloring to show that some skin thing.
He has no eyebrows.
He's white Luke Cage.
Yeah, that's going to go over well in 2019.
So the owner of the casino had a sick daughter that the jackal healed, and now her real daughter's back in a coma, and now she has a gun pointed to Ben Riley's face. And so here's the thing: in the back of this issue, there's a dumb editorial by the assistant editor or whatever, and he says that as he's writing the editorial, it's spring in New York City. And spring is a time for rebirth, and who deserves reinvention more than Ben Riley? But again, as we argued on in our conclusions of the clone conspiracy, is that no, not Ben Riley, because anyone jumping into this for the first time, they don't care, and anyone coming back for the nostalgic Clone Saga fix, this is not remotely recognizable Ben Riley. And so the whole direction just doesn't make sense
at all.
Issue 2.
Issue 2 might be the wildest issue we've read, maybe on the show. There's some crazy shit in this issue.
Did you enjoy the enhanced interrogation tactics? Because it's not torture.
When Kane straight up walks out, I thought he was Gambit.
Yeah, because of his red eyes.
Yeah. I'm like, why the hell is Gambit in this book?
Virtually almost the same gag from the 2004 Punisher movie.
Yes.
Which is taken from the opening arc of Punisher Warzone by Dixon and Romita. You're talking about the popsicle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here, though, I did like this more because Kane has captured I forget what her name is. The girl that worked with Ben, yeah. And he's going to waterboard her, but he's going to use boiling water.
Which I think he's trying to imply like it's going to be double the agony.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be horrible.
Yeah, but I think the boiling water kind of cancels out the effect of the waterboarding.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it definitely would not work, and it's stupid, but I love it.
You're just going to give someone third-degree burns through a washcloth.
I also love that it was just dry ice, and she somehow thought dry ice was like boiling water.
It's okay because she thought the smoke coming out of it was like steam.
Again, Rita is stupid.
Yeah, she's not smart.
But she was smart enough to tell that Kane's scars are different than Ben's scars, which nobody later in the book is able to do.
Yeah.
Also, Kane's hair is longer than Ben's.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the mullet thing going on.
He's got the mullet hair going on.
We basically established in the 90s that hairstyles can just change on women. Nobody will notice. Unless you dye it lemon yellow.
He had long hair and Ben had short hair in the 90s. Or at least John Jr. was drawing Pete with long hair.
Yeah.
And so Ben swindles the casino owner by pretending to have crazy powers.
This is specifically what I was talking about. What the hell?
It doesn't make
sense. Ben Riley walks into this dying child's room and says, yeah, I can cure her. Just give me some money and food and stuff, and I'll take care of your dying child.
Also give my aunt, who's not my aunt, an entire suite and unlimited amount of quarters to play the slots.
This random old woman who I've never met before, but her name's June, and that's close to May, so like, I don't know.
Well, it's really weird
too. Like Peter David mocking Mark Millar.
The initial setup, the initial dumb story is that he has like some kind of powers, which he awakened her with. But then he's like, I need a shitload of money to do actual scientific research. So they don't flow in. Those two things don't flow into each other.
But he has no intention of curing this kid.
No, it's just the best part.
He's straight up extorting this woman because of her dying child.
And he almost gets away with it until they implant a Suicide Squad MacGuffin into his brain.
Yeah. It's so weird.
And then the rest of issue 2, Kane, he breaks into Rita's office to find out where Ben is, and then some randos are behind him and start shooting. That's the cliffhanger. He mentions Erasely, aka Hummingbird, and how she's not there because it's dangerous or something. But like, I guess he gets into some dangerous shit. But she was on his superhero team and was with him in Houston and everything. I'm hoping maybe she eventually shows up in this stupid series like 10 issues later.
How do we feel about Bagley's art on this book?
It's fine. Like I don't hate it. It's not my favorite art ever, but it's fine.
Yeah, I think it's mediocre, Bagley. Obviously, across different evolving styles through the eras, he's done way better than this, but he's also done worse than this. I mean, you think certain things are obvious, like I think he was involved with the weekly series Trinity with Busiek at DC. Obviously, that's not going to look as good, but also he did the all new X-Men run after Secret Wars, and I thought that looked like trash compared to this.
Yeah.
And then he did Life Story, which came out last week, and that looked really good.
Right. Like there are some moments in this, like the opening of the third issue where Kane is hiding under the desk. That splash page I think looks really good. But for the most part, none of the art in here is as good as, Life Story, which might not be a fair comparison, but
it might not be a fair comparison because, well, let's see. John Dell is still inking him on this book, and John Dell's inking. I think John Dell's coloring on Life Story. So,
I would see.
Yeah,
he's probably doing the same job on both. So the third issue opens with an introduction to Artie, the homeless man, which I thought was going to be a new supporting character, but again, is never
going to be his Uncle Ben.
But they literally spend like 4 dialogue balloons. I'm exaggerating, but like they fully introduced this random homeless man with a unique name.
Yep.
And yeah, he gets a Suicide Squad tracker implant, but it's a bluff. But he can't trust that. And then he comes across Mandy again. Also, like you could assume that maybe it was off page, but he didn't have a plan to get the other half of his money back then. It's not like he asked for her phone number or where she lives so that he could track her down. He just assumes I'm going to run into
traffic on this woman.
I'm going to run into this random woman in Las Vegas sometime again.
And then he does. And then our hero continues to do the thing he does best, which is extort women and children. Christ.
No, but the best part about this is she doesn't have the $50, but she comes out and he's like, "Oh, I applied for a job." He's like, "You applied for a job? That's great."
Yeah.
And like, I'm assuming she comes back. We don't see her after this issue in the stuff we read, but maybe she's a supporting character.
I hope so.
And then some Spidey cosplayers are messing around in the casino again. And they're the web spinners. They're just these loser, like, town watch people who wear Spider-Man cosplay.
They're the fake Batmans from Dark Knight that wear hockey pads.
Yeah.
One of them has the original 2099 suit on. One of them has the default Peter Parker Spider-Man, and one has the true Scarlet Spider. And one of them gets their neck snapped by S.H.I.E.L.D, and then Ben saves them. And then the one wearing the Scarlet Spider costume starts dishing on this new Scarlet Spider costume about how shitty it is, how it looks like a ripoff of Spider Side, and how you can see his mouth. Just literally internet comments.
Yeah, it's literally internet comments.
And I mean, true internet comments. And then Ben is like, "All right, just give me your costume right now. I'm stealing it." And now he's in the proper costume.
I don't want to linger on this because ultimately stupid and unrelated. But I like how the dude who died in the amazing costume has a problem with speaking too quickly and slurring his words together. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
But
oh yeah,
like,
this is me.
but
Yeah,
like
because
this
he
final,
tries to yell through his mask and no one can understand what he's saying.
Which is just
this,
kind of a great little gag. I really like that.
this final scene is totally meta. There's no way to not
100%.
consider it such. And so it's like this is issue 3, but it's like since it's already issue 3, by when you're making issue 3, one is like not even out yet usually. And I'm not. This book may have even been like on a 1.5 month schedule or something, or like a not 1.5 months, but it may have been
Well,
like every
preview
2 weeks.
images are released. That's before the book comes out.
So I don't like. Was this a super last minute swerve, or did they somehow like decide this before the first issue was out? But I don't.
I mean, it's
I
one of
really
two
don't
things.
know.
It's one of two things. Either they managed to either the backlash from the initial costume was so immediate that they could change it by a third issue, or Peter David is just a genius.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not hard to anticipate like people getting mad about it just because the way
Right.
that internet fans are. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Peter David just writes that in there. But also, I mean, promo images and teasers are released. They probably had some initial reactionary things to like sneak in there.
That's what I'm thinking. Because I know they debuted the costume, long before the issue came out, and like Mike
The
said
only thing
earlier,
people talked about was how bad the costume was.
yeah, and there was enough time for them to change the cover of the first issue. Like, I imagine it was reactionary.
yeah,
We get a Live in La Vida Loca reference in this issue.
correct. Slate's ringtone. And issue 4, we've got a Ben and Kane cover. I like this cover, even though they basically use this exact same cover concept for like 3 in a row.
Yep.
And Kane, he beats up the people shooting at him, gets rid of his tail, and Slate interrogates the stick-up men in prison. And later we learn that someone named Thorne hired them, and then they don't fully get back to that until later. And Kane impersonates Ben and just walks into the casino to get caught up on the status quo. And then, of
No,
course,
he goes in just as Kane, and then he realizes, oh, Ben's been here.
yeah. And then, similar to the OOG Clone Saga, they come face to face, of course. And this issue ends with, "I'm the Scarlet Spider." "No, I am." "You want to go?" Like that, literally, it's like over the top, really stupid dialogue where he says, "You want to go," and then the like final page tease is that they're gonna fight each other.
Which I guess we can save it for the end of the episode. But who was the better Scarlet Spider?
Ben.
Ooh,
Well, wait, no, actually, it's totally Kane.
It's totally Kane.
I think it has to be Kane. Yeah.
Well, it's Kane as far as like the quality of comic books and like the uniqueness of a premise. It's easily Kane.
That and Ben Wonderly wasn't Scarlet Spider for that long.
Yeah, that's the problem. Well, he wasn't in the first place.
Yeah,
And he also hated being Scarlet Spider the whole time he was Scarlet Spider.
Yeah.
he was Spider-Man longer than he was Scarlet Spider.
Yeah.
And he's the better Spider-Man
Yeah,
Than Kane.
than Peter Parker.
than any other Spider-Man.
Um, so also just a thing in my notes, like issues 2, 3, and 4, I have practically no notes on because when you actually look at like when you actually pay attention, nothing happens in these issues. There's not really much plot progression. But
No, there's not at all.
there's not it's not like there's character development either. It's just like very decompressed and nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Now, issue 5, the final issue for this episode, Back in the Hood. Kane, this issue starts with Ben giving us an interpretation of how he differs from Kane. Now that they're both the Scarlet Spider, obviously they're both clones of Peter Parker. Kane is described as overthinking things during fights, but Ben is very spontaneous, which, whatever. There's not really enough explanation, and there's not really enough of a significant and well drawn fight to really agree or determine any of that. And if anything, the prior characterization of Kane, not that he was necessarily like more open and spontaneous in his fight, but he was always described as being like more brutal.
Hmm. Yeah,
And like
I've never once thought of Kane as like a thinking man. That doesn't.
No, he's not. He's always jumping into fights without thinking. Hence,
Right.
if you
At the
think
end
back
of the day,
to the universe, he literally jumps into Loom World and doesn't think about it.
exactly, because he's still a clone of Peter Parker, and that's what Pete does. The main difference, I think, is that Kane is a lot more willing to break bones and stuff.
Yeah, he's to get dirty, if you will.
and Slate and Mercury. Mercury is the owner of the casino with the comatose daughter. They go to a cultural appropriation restaurant to fight ninjas.
Yeah, I don't know what this was. Like, it was so odd.
It's
It
weird
comes out of
because
nowhere and then goes away. It's so weird.
yeah, for like half a page, it totally seems like Peter David is like trying to do really shitty commentary, but he's like, a 50-year-old white dude. Um,
Yeah, I guess it's supposed to be a joke. I don't know.
it's weird.
It's so weird.
And then Ben and Kane in their fight, they almost have a sword fight. They both grab swords, and I think the swords might clash literally once on
Okay,
page.
and we get more meta commentary here because they crash into what is essentially a medieval times restaurant.
Yes.
And the guy's like, "Why is the Black Knight always evil?" And the guy's like, because it's worked for 18 years." And then it just felt like this weird thing. The way I read it was like this weird thing for Spider-Man, like don't change anything. I'm definitely reading way too much into it, but like it was just this weird thing because the story stopped to get this weird like page and a half of dialogue between these three guys that work at a medieval times.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. And then again, I just want to really drill home that this is the most underwhelming sword fight that I've ever seen. And Kane begins to strangle Ben Riley with some webbing, but the Black Knight stops him. And then Ben traps Kane, hands him a gun, and then Kane just shoots Ben.
I loved that. It was so great.
I think the art is really good. Like the panel of Kane just like holding the gun and shooting it. I just really like that panel in isolation. But then things get way, way, way stupider because Ben catches a bullet.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay, great.
I
can't,
don't.
you can't do that. That's not a power that Spider-Man has.
Yeah.
It is now.
And then Kane makes the same deal about saving Abigail, where Ben finally explains what he's doing, and Kane like kind of thinks, okay, you gotta save this girl, and then I'll kill you. It's basically just a way to freeze Kane's like involvement in the story for like 1 second.
Yep.
And Mercury and Slate, they open the back door. They talk to Thorn, who is her brother,
Yep.
and that doesn't matter to us because we're not going to get back to
Because
it.
we're not going to get back to this at all.
So
And I don't care anyway.
that is Back in the Hood.
It's not even the conclusion of like an arc.
Well, I don't know. It's like sort of is, sort of isn't.
There's no beginning and middle to end to that story.
No, it's just here's 5 issues of watching Ben Riley be an asshole for really no reason.
Yeah, so I think we touched on mostly everything. We touched on kind of our theories for behind the scenes and the meta commentary. Touched on Bagley's art, everything like that. Any comments we're missing?
More of the same for next episode, which is happening right after this one.
That's right. Stay tuned.
Yep, stay tuned for next one where we'll talk about more Ben Riley.
Yeah.
Bye bye.